Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts Life and Happiness Podcast, the show that takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible.
Welcome to GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo. Hello, how are you doing today? I hope you've been having a wonderful day, or if you're just starting, I hope you're going to have a wonderful day. I hope you're feeling positive and good today, even despite some of the unknowns and craziness that's happening in our world right now. Just because there is craziness and things that we are definitely not used to going on in all of our lives right now, that does not mean that we need to, completely stop and not continue to grow and go after our goals and try to enhance our life and still create that happy, healthy life that we all want. And that's why today I want to talk to you about something that, has a really, really strong impact. It's a really big factor, I think, in your productivity, just your overall happiness, well-being, your motivation and determination, and that's your environment. When we think of reaching our goals and when we think of going after the things that we want, we think about implementing healthy habits, staying focused and being organized, having those visual reminders. We might try to do things to try to enhance our motivation. So I've mentioned lots of different ways to get motivated and determined. So putting visual reminders, setting yourself reminders on your phone, giving ourselves rewards for doing good things that we are, rewarding ourselves for our little to big accomplishments, telling friends to make sure that we hold ourselves accountable, using the buddy system to reach our goals with a friend so that we hold each other accountable. But often we forget the one thing that could actually be really holding us back the most, and that is our environment. And with all of this craziness going on in our world, right now, we are kind of stuck to be doing everything in one environment. Most of us, I would say, if you're able to work from home or do your schooling or whatever you're doing, you're probably spending a lot of time in your house more than usual. Often we have different environments for different aspects of our life. Of course, we have our home environment, our work environment, depending where you're at in your life. It might be, your school environment, or you spend 90% of the time at your boyfriend's house. You have that environment. Whatever the case is, there's definitely all these different environments that we are in on a day-to-day basis or a weekly basis that can affect who we are and our happiness and our motivation. Our surroundings are actually very, very important to our personal growth. Think about it. You cannot grow in a toxic environment, or you can't grow in an environment that is not going to help you or enhance. If you are in an environment that is quite distracting, or it's quite unhealthy and toxic, and you're not going to be able to get your best work done. It's like flowers. Flowers need to be in the right sunlight and soil to blossom beautifully. It's just we have to be in a healthy and motivated place to help us reach our goals. And our emotions are very closely linked to our surroundings. So right now you might be stuck in your house a lot, and if you're feeling particularly stressed out in your own home, I'm definitely going to be giving you some tips and tricks of things that you can do in your own home right now to change that environment, and how that will enhance your productivity, your motivation, determination, just your overall happiness, I would say. But this really can go in for any type of environment. Once you start going back to work, you can try to implement the stuff I'm going to be talking about in that environment, or in your house, or at your boyfriend's house, or at school, and all these different things. I know we can't, rearrange furniture and change our environment, at school or work sometimes, but there's definitely things that we can do that can help us feel better in that environment, be in a better place in that area. Our emotions are very closely linked to our surroundings. We are easily triggered by our environment, and often we don't realize it. So there can be a lot of anxiety or depression or stress, anger triggers that we are surrounded by constantly, and we don't actually realize that. But our brains are very closely connected to our surroundings. We often go to what we feel the most comfortable with. Same with our brains. It goes to, what we're familiar with. But it sounds weird, but we are actually the products of our environments. But I know that sounds kind of weird to say, but that's how much your environment can really have an impact on you. Think about it. I always talk about surrounding yourself with the right people. When you are surrounded by negative people that are not motivated and not determined, that's going to bring you down as well, compared to being around people that are, high energy and positive and go-getters, and they're ready to go after whatever they want, whatever they desire. Then you're going to have that motivation too. It's like when you release positive energy, you're going to take in positive energy. And so when you're in a toxic or unhealthy environment, it's really hard to grow properly. It's really hard to grow your emotions and get better that way, and physically, and reach your goals in an environment that's not benefiting you. So I'm going to talk today a little bit about some tips and tricks to help your environment, things that you can do, and why it impacts us so much, just in our everyday lives, in our emotional health, our mental, physical, emotional, all of that. It's all connected to our environment. I talked the last episode about sleep. Our sleep health is very, very crucial to our overall well-being as well, and our sleep can be drastically impacted by our environment if we are not in the right place for us. And it's different for everybody, right? You have to figure out what works for you. Just like so many things that I've talked about in all of the episodes, it all starts with you and finding out what works best for you and getting to know yourself that way. So as always, I say, journaling and reflecting and those kind of things can help you kind of pick apart what works best for you. Make your list, make your pros and cons, try to weigh some things out and see really kind of what clicks and what works. But as we go through today's episode, I think you'll find some cues and things that you connect with that you can change quite easily, that can make a very drastic change in your life. Every single day we wake up and we have to make decisions. We have to decide what we're going to do when we get out of bed. We have to decide, how are we going to take our coffee today? What are we going to have for breakfast? When am I going to brush my teeth? Compared to, we have some bigger decisions sometimes, like some big choices about education or relationships or our careers. These differ from day-to-day basis, but we every single day we get to wake up with the decision of what are we going to do that day. Where am I going to take my life today? How am I going to feel today? And when we wake up with a positive and feel-good attitude and mindset, that can really help us drive us into that positive direction. But even if you wake up in a positive mindset, but you're not in the right healthy environment, it can only take you so far. Your environment has a huge, huge impact on you, especially our environmental cues. Like I said, our brains automatically associate our emotions with our environments. So there's cues in your environment constantly that your brain is connecting to, and those environmental cues can really affect your thoughts, your desires. They can affect the way that you behave and the way that you react. think of it this way. You are going to act completely different when you are at the office in front of your boss compared to the way that you're going to act when you are sitting in your own home with your family on a Friday night. It is different. And of course, there's those obvious environmental cues like being at work and being at home where you're obviously going to act a little bit more different than you would. But that's not exactly what I mean by environmental cues. There is a lot more to it. There's a lot of environmental cues in your own home that are affecting your productivity than you realize. And there are probably a lot of environmental cues at work or at school that are in affecting your productivity and your motivation, determination, that you don't even realize. So we are closely connected to our environments on a whole nother level. And it's quite interesting how much it really does affect us. It's also quite, I find it quite scary how much your environment can impact you. But the thing is that there's so many tips and tricks and things that we can do to help us in our environments, because it's not like we can get up and just move houses or get up and completely change our job or school just because we don't like the environment. We have to figure out ways that work for us, that we can be productive, motivated, and determined in all of our main environments that we are in on a day-to-day basis or just a regular basis. So it is time for a little bit of a break, but when we get back, I will jump into some of the things that you can do to basically get the most out of your environment to make sure that you're being motivated and determined and going after all of your goals. So stay tuned.
You really can't underestimate the importance of having the right creative work for your brand or your product. Whether it's a logo, a website, a book cover, or an ad campaign, you really need a quality design to make that big difference pop and deliver your overall engagement and success in a competitive market. That's where Design Crowd comes in. Design Crowd has over 750,000 designers from Sydney to San Francisco ready to help you with awesome creative ideas. They make crowdsourcing work for you. So if you need a logo or you're working on your creative branding, you can go to designcrowd.com and post a brief describing the design you need. And then within about 2 to 7 days, you'll receive up to over 100 different designs from designers around the world. Then you pick the best design and approve payment to the designer. So you're only paying for the design that you want. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of freelancing and out of crowdsourcing. And you don't have to be a huge company like Harvard Business School to use Design Crowd, although they have used it as well. You can start a project on Design Crowd for as little as $99. And if you go right now to designcrowd.com/health and wellness or enter the promo code health and wellness on their website, then our health and wellness listeners will receive up to $150 off of your design project. That's designcrowd.com/health and wellness or entering that promo code health and wellness.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back to GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo, and before the break, we were talking about some environmental cues. So, of course, there's the obvious big ones of, being in your workspace, being at home, being at school, your friend's house, your significant other's house. All those obviously are going to affect the way that you are, the way that you act, and your happiness and how you're feeling in that moment. But there's definitely little cues that we can, adjust, and just little things that we can do on an everyday basis to make sure that we're enhancing our happiness in our life and being motivated and determined. So your decisions that you are making are largely influenced by what's around you. And like I've said, you usually don't actually realize how much is influencing you. So, for example, let's say you're at work and your work is, let's say you have like some papers or something like that, and your papers are, too far away from you, and, it's not really out of your reach, but you're sitting there kind of doing something else, and so you're going to procrastinate because it's just, even though it's probably, 5 feet away from you, it still affects you, and you don't realize that's why you're procrastinating sometimes. But if something is just like you can just grab it and go and just get started, then you're usually good. But when things are, we have to put a little bit more effort into it, we tend to kind of just drag it on and take our time because we don't feel like getting up and doing it. We're just procrastinating. Or, the plates that you use to eat dinner, you tend to fill them up with more food than you need because they're really, really big. So that's just like a cue of if you have really, really big plates for dinner, you're going to fill it up. Whereas if you eat on a smaller plate, you might fill the whole plate up, but it's smaller, right? So there's little even things like that, like the size of your dinner plate is affecting the way that you are doing your life, the way that you're reacting, the way that you do things. So you are browsing a website and you see a suggested blog, say. So then you become curious about it and you click on it. Okay, obviously, right? There's things advertising all over the internet, everywhere you go. But have you ever just gone and scrolled, you're oh, I've never seen that before, and you click on it, and all of a sudden you are 10 profiles deep into your ex-boyfriend's mom's sister's profile. I don't know. That's the thing. We click on something and it keeps going and it keeps going and it keeps going. But if we never even opened up our phone, we could have been doing other things that were more productive. So there's literally tiny little things, like an article popping up on your phone, your dinner plate, your work just being out of arm's reach. All these things can really have an impact on your determination and your motivation to keep going and to get things done. In a lot of situations, we can look at our environments to determine on how we should react. Like I said, when you're at working and stuff, the way that you react when you're at work is different than how you're going to react with your family. So the objects and the people that are around us, those are cues that make us react. So you obviously react to things differently when you're in your house and when you're in your work and when you're in school. And that's because of everything that's around you, the different people that are around you, the setting, maybe the time of day, all that kind of stuff, right? And so that all has a factor. So even if you set out to complete a task with the best of your intentions, you are ready to go for it, it's no use if your environment is telling you no. If you are ready and motivated to get up and get some work done, but say you want to get up and you want to have a really good workout. Okay, but then you get up into your home and you wake up in your bedroom and everything's a mess, and you go into the kitchen and everything's a mess. And now this is distracting for you, and it's in the back of your brain. Oh, I need to clean everything. Oh, I have this to do. I have this to do. See, just having a messy house can affect the way that you're going to work out, which sounds kind of weird, but it's true because we don't realize that we're actually processing all these things that we're looking at all the time. So odds are you might not even get to your workout, or if you're during your workout, you're not going to be as motivated because you have all these other things in your head going on that you know that you need to do later on. And so it's quite distracting. I know for me right now, since all the gyms are closed and, we can't really do much, a lot of people are working out at their houses. This is very, very difficult for me. This is an exact example of why our environments really affect our motivation. Like, it is so hard for me to get through a workout in my bedroom. First of all, I don't have the right equipment that I usually like. But second, all of a sudden I'm in my bedroom. First of all, my bed's right there. I can lay down on my bed. You know, I have my work right in front of me. I have all these other distractions and things going on. My roommates, dogs barking, things are happening, and I can't focus on my workout. Whereas if I did that workout at the gym, that is the environment to be motivated and energized to get your workout in. But trying to do your workout at your house can be very, very difficult. I know a lot of people are having a hard time during quarantine and isolation to get your workouts in because it is difficult to stay motivated and on track. Just like it's difficult to get your work done or your schoolwork done when you're in your home. Your home environment, if you're not used to working in your home, that's very, very distracting. Your home in your, in your mind, in your body, like that's your resting time. That is, you come and you eat and you hang out with your family or the people you live with, and that's it, right? It's your relaxing, it's your sanctuary, you get to chill out and do your thing. Whereas now all of a sudden you have to you have to do your job, you have to work 9 to 5 in your home, or you have to do your schoolwork in your home. It can be really, really challenging. Especially if you're not set up, you don't have an extra room for an office. You don't have that extra space that you can, be away from everybody. That's, makes it a little bit less distracting. For me, I don't have that extra space to go anywhere. So doing my schoolwork and doing my work in my bedroom has been really, really difficult during this entire time because it's truly distracting. So you find yourself way less motivated and determined to continue. I do have a little bit of a tip for that one, which I will get to. But the thing is our environments are always sending us signals constantly. So basically our environments are serving as kind of guidelines for how we should act and respond. And we really value our mental processing resources that we have, and we don't realize how much we do value those. But our minds are constantly processing and absorbing everything that's going on around us. And, when you're just kind of grumpy and you're in a bad mood, but then all of a sudden you get outside, you get moving, and that just instantly helps you. It's not just because you got up and you're moving. It's because you're outside, you're in a different environment. Maybe you feel, kind of a weight lifted off your shoulder. You feel less closed off because you're not in your bedroom anymore. Now you're outside breathing fresh air, and that environment helps cheer you up. So we actually only have a very limited amount of willpower to make decisions before that willpower runs out. And then after that willpower runs out, our brains become tired and overwhelmed. Just because as a result of our everyday lives, they're made up of all these habits, right? You have your daily routine and all these, positive and negative habits, all these things that you do. So we practice certain actions over and over and over again. You wake up every morning, you brush your teeth, you lock your front door when you leave the house, things like that we constantly do over and over again. So to do something out of the ordinary or kind of, some additional effort without an immediate benefit, that takes up a lot of our willpower. If we're not going to get a reward for something right away, that's, we have to put 10 times more effort in, we might procrastinate and take a step back. So there's only so much of things that we can handle before our mental energy is running out. So most of the time, we choose the path of the least resistance. And if something we want to do is out of reach, we're probably just going to push it to the side and do something that's more convenient for the time being. Especially if that task that we are trying to do is challenging or requires a lot more effort. So I'm saying this because since we're stuck in our homes and we probably find ourselves I think we find ourselves thinking that we're being productive, but we're avoiding the work that we need to do by doing other productive things, like maybe cleaning the house or making dinner, getting meals ready, doing some laundry, things around the house that you need to do. So you're like, oh, I'm kind of being productive because you need to do them, but you're not actually motivated to get your work done. And it's because you're in an environment that you're not used to having to sit 9 to 5 and do your job, or whatever the case may be. So we have to, we only have that limited amount of willpower. And once we get past that point, our environment will take over. All of a sudden, we're past that willpower point, and then we see our bed and we just want to lay down and take a nap, and it makes us more tired. So once you're able to kind of get to know yourself a little bit better, then you're able to get to know your environmental cues that might set you off. There might be things too in your bedroom, in your workplace, that make you really anxious and you don't realize it. There might be things that make you really upset and you don't realize it, or make you really tired, like looking at your bed and you just kind of want to cozy back up into it instead of doing all of your work. So we avoid the extra effort things, and we fall kind of into our environments. Okay, it's time for another break, but when we get back, I am going to jump into some things that you can do to better your environment. Basically, just designing your surroundings so that you can make good choices wherever you are. Okay, stay tuned. We'll be right back.
I want to talk to you guys about this amazing product I've been using lately called Hydrant. If you're like me and you want to kick the coffee habit, but you're worried about your energy levels depleting, to avoid the morning sluggishness and that midday slump, you need to make sure you're hydrated. It's super important. And that's where I've been using Hydrant. And for 25% off your first order, you can go to drinkhydrant.com and enter promo code GSMC at checkout. Hydrant is basically flavored electrolyte packets you mix directly into your water to make hydrating your body easy and delicious. And what I love about Hydrant, it's backed by research. The formula was developed by Oxford scientists to provide perfectly balanced, efficient hydration. Again, that's drinkhydrant.com and enter promo code GSMC for 25% off your first order. Another really cool thing about Hydrant, there's no synthetic colors or artificial sweeteners. The formula is vegan and you can choose between 3 different flavors or a variety pack. So for all my vegan friendly fellows out there, this one's for you. Again, this is drinkhydrant.com and enter promo code GSMC.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast. I am your host, Alyssa Jo. So we're talking about our environment and the impacts that it has on us in our everyday lives and our overall well-being. So when we make choices every single day, and it is really crucial to make sure that we're surrounding ourselves and setting ourselves up in an environment that is going to set us up to make good choices. When you're trying to do your work in your bedroom, but your bed's right there, probably not the smartest environment to be really focused on what you're doing. So we often think that achieving a task is just kind of getting out there and doing it. We think that if there's a will, there's a way. We've all heard that, especially when we're going towards a goal. It's like, well, if there's a will, there's a way. I'll get there. But our environment dictates what we choose to do as opposed to what we want to do. So you might be really motivated to work out and get that summer body ready for it. You're excited, you're motivated, but all the gyms are closed and you don't have that motivating environment to help push you to those workouts and to help get you motivated, determined, and stick to it. So we kind of just, maybe we'll kind of work out a little bit, but we don't do it nearly as hard or as determined as we would have if we were in the gym. So if you have choices around you, that are kind of distracting, and they can lead you to kind of undesirable outcomes because of all the distractions, it makes it really hard to make the right choices. It makes it really hard to get that workout done. It makes it really hard to do that school paper or, do the work assignment that you have to do when you have all these other things going on. So we have to set ourselves up for the right choices. So on the flip side, having an environment that only has desirable choices, though, can constrict you from doing what's important for yourself at that time. So it's prioritizing what's best for you and making sure that your environment lines up with those things. So if you want to work on really improving your habits and being productive and determined and motivated, then take a look around and see how you can make things kind of more convenient for yourself. Okay, so I'll give you some examples. To get some work done, if you minimize your distractions, that can take away from your focus. That's a pretty obvious, self-explanatory one. If we can take away all those distractions, put your cell phone away, put things out of arm's reach so you can't grab onto anything, and you just set yourself up with a desk in the corner, you'll do it. Or if you want to eat better, then you need to put healthier foods and water within close reach. Right? It's like, okay, I only eat junk food if I buy it. I'm usually too lazy to go to the store and go get it. So if you only have healthy food in your house, then you're going to implement that healthy habit of eating healthy then, because you have no other choice. When you try to persuade someone to do a task, explain it and set it up so that it's really convenient for that person to do. So I think this is an example that's helpful in a workplace if you were trying to kind of tell somebody, okay, this is what we need to get done. If you or school projects, or you're working in a team, or even in your relationship and you want someone to do something, when you explain it and you kind of set it up and you make it pretty easy for them to do, well, then they're probably going to do it because it's convenient. We are humans and we like convenience. Let's face it. We're lazy that way. We like things to be convenient. And there is nothing bad about that. That is so normal. If you really want to change yourself, I think it comes with changing your environment. Making changes to your environment makes it easier to do what's right without actually having to overthink it and putting that extra effort in. Things become a lot easier. All of a sudden you're getting a lot more work done. You're a lot less distracted. So if you set up your surroundings so that you're making the best decisions, and the best decisions come easily at your convenience, then you can set yourself up to practice your better habits. When we think that change really comes within, and I say that for so many things. Everything starts with you. And I believe that, achieving your goals and being motivated and all of that does start with you, and having that motivation inside of you and that drive to get going. That's definitely a very good start, but you also have to put in all the other factors that could affect your motivation and your determination. So your environment is the biggest one. We often don't think about optimizing our environment to make the best choices for our lives. So our environment influences our mood. Researchers have said that rooms with really bright light and natural and artificial lighting, that can all improve depression and anxiety. It can really impact your behavior and motivation to act. If you have a messy room and all this other things, that's like, say you walk into your house and it's just shoes everywhere and bags and coats and messy things, well, then you're probably just going to add to the pile. You're probably just going to add your other shoes, drop your coat on the floor, and you're not going to care. Whereas if that space was clean, that would give you the motivation to hang up your jacket, put your shoes away, and keep everything clean. So that all starts with you. You have to start that habit to begin with. now I'm going to get into something that kind of motivated me for today's episode. I recently rearranged the furniture in my bedroom since I've been spending so much time at home. I didn't have a desk or anything because I spent so much time not at home before. I did all my work elsewhere, but now I was having a really hard time focusing. So I decided to rearrange my furniture. And I mean, the power behind rearranging your furniture is beautiful. It's not just for me right now, stuck in my house and trying to get work done, but just in general. You might not think that rearranging your furniture is quite that powerful, but if you're really bored with the layout of your home, it can actually make you feel depressed and sad and unmotivated. It's really subtle, and sometimes it's not subtle, but over time it adds up and it can really drag down your mood. So kind of rearranging and sparking things up a little bit, that can make you feel kind of energized and have a new, go-get-it attitude. Even if you are the type of person who likes everything kind of in its simple place, you like your routine, you just like the way it is, simple changes can do your mind really, really good, and it can really benefit you. So even for colors, some people will change their throw pillows and the themes of their houses to go with different seasons, or things like that. Or maybe you just want to switch up colors in your house. It can be as simple as switching up colors, or it could be literally rearranging furniture where you move your bed around to a different place to get some more light from the window when you wake up maybe, or you set your desk up in a different area that you might find more productive. As you rearrange the furniture, you're also going to be forced to throw it all of clutter and clean things up. You're going to kind of be forced to give yourself a little bit of a deep clean. And I find that living with messiness in your home and all those kind of things, you might not think that's distracting you, but in the back of your mind, it is. No one can really, it's hard to focus when you have all this clutter and things going on. So when you're rearranging your furniture, that's another benefit to it. You're going to get rid of all the clutter, the things that you don't need. You're going to clean everything up. And trust me, once you rearrange things, you maybe put some new colors in. Maybe you want to hang up a new picture or something. Redecorate. Have fun with it. And everything will be spotless and clean and redecorated. And it just gives you that extra kind of motivation and push. It's just you're surrounding yourself, with new things, and now your brain gets to, send these different signals from these different environmental cues. So especially if you find yourself feeling quite anxious or depressed, maybe in a certain room or while you're sitting on a certain couch or things like that, moving those things around, getting rid of some things if you need to, you'll notice instantly, just your mood just increases. It's just way more positive. So rearrange things. Rearrange your furniture. Set yourself up for the positive environmental cues that your brain, is going to associate with positive emotions and productivity and motivation and determination. How many times have I used those words in this episode? But seriously, our brains automatically associate our emotions with our environments. So when you move things around and you set things up differently, now our brains are associating emotions with this new environment. And if it's positive and you set yourself up where you can be not distracted and there's no clutter, there's no things that are running through the back of your mind, you will be amazed at how productive and motivated you really are. Our environments have so much to do with our overall well-being. So set yourself up for a positive environment wherever you are. Your work, your school, your home, wherever you go, make sure you have those positive environmental cues so that your positive mood can continue. And you can continue to live your life happy and healthy. All right, that is all the information I have for you today. I hope this inspired you to rearrange your furniture. Just kidding. I hope it really did just inspire you to get some new environmental cues to make yourself feel better, especially if you're having a hard time focusing in your home right now. It can be really difficult. Thank you so much for listening to GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo. I really appreciate you being here and listening today. Please do not forget to hit that subscribe button, like and follow us on social media, and leave a 5-star review. I look forward to next time. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Life and Happiness Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find the show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows. From the GSMC Podcast Network, from sex and relationships to health and wellness, life and happiness, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts Life and Happiness Podcast.